Zonus, the God of Production of the Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. Super pumped to be here today. We got veterans, we got pros on the show. We got Esteban. Hair is killing it. We got Lorenzo. Hair is nowhere to be found, man. Yeah, that's okay.
I sneezed too hard.
No, it's a good look. It's good. I'm liking the jean jacket. Yeah, you're killing it. Newly engaged, Esteban.
That I am.
Super
by the grace
pumped
of
about.
God.
Last time you said on this show you were going to propose, but she didn't know that yet. And in the interim, you proposed and it worked out.
That's right. The first date had gone really well, so I just planned on second time's the charm.
Yeah, why waste time?
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
That's how you used to do it back in the day. You meet once, you write some letters back and forth, bada bing, bada boom, and 6 months later you're getting engaged.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, I love it. No, that's awesome. We've got a really great show today. What is our actual title? Are we going with Knights of the Round Table defeating Goliath, or with a more punchy Knights of the Round Table, the Epstein Files defeating Goliath?
That's it. That's it.
That's it.
Epstein Files is defeating Goliath.
All right. Well, I think we're going to need some prayers to get us started in here. Either you guys want to volunteer to?
Oh, okay. I guess I'm good. All right. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, we give you thanks for allowing us to open our eyes this morning and to be able to come together and to communicate your word and your will and to better understand ourselves and how you work through us. We ask that through this conversation, you ask us to become open and humble and, curious and interested in understanding more about your will and how to glorify you through our actions. In your Son's name, we pray. In the name of the Father,
Amen.
Son, Holy Spirit.
Good. Amen. That's great. Yeah. Don't grade prayers. I'd give you about a 79 though if I did.
Oh.
Yeah. That might be a little bit of an inside joke from before we came on, but
no, it's there. We're happy to be in the loop.
But we're not. The powers that be have told us we're not doing fun facts anymore, and I think that's actually works out really well for this episode because I want to jump right in.
Let's jump in.
This is a well-researched. I don't know if I've gotten such a good panelist submitted. Here's what we're talking about. Boom, boom, boom. Let's punch this in the face. And I just want to let you roll. You said you want to give us a little intro, and then we're going to go through.
Yep. Let's set the direction.
Sure.
So the objective here is to acknowledge the evil at the highest levels of society, and to realize that that has everything to do with you, but also to have hope in the fact that there is something that you can do about it. So we'll start at the reality. If you get your news anywhere other than CNN or Fox, you might have heard that there is a extremely powerful group of individuals that span across industries, politics, economics, entertainment, governments that actively practice satanic rituals, pedophilia, child sacrifice, human torture, so that they can appeal to their god, Lucifer, in exchange for power and wealth. And this might tempt us to despair and say, okay, this is beyond me. There's nothing I can do about this, and I just accept that the world that I live in and that my children live in is at the mercy of these people. This also might cause us to fall into cowardice of not even wanting to attempt to address this thing, not even want to attempt to speak out against the ideologies that kind of propagate the agenda of these people. We know what ideologies I'm talking about. And lastly, something I learned, a word called acedia is a temptation, which is spiritual sloth. And that, I think, is a pretty potent one, which is kind of it's a music to the ears of our enemies, is spiritual sloth.
Yeah, dude. And that's the one that popped out to me when I was going through this just a few minutes ago right before the show. Spiritual sloth, just looking at myself, especially in the Lenten season when we're doing a lot more of that examination. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to throw out.
Please.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that we might find tempting us. And also, I think it's also tempting to think this has nothing to do with me. These are multi-billionaires living on their islands. Sure, they might be eating babies. Not theory anymore. Sure, they might be in the industries that I kind of benefit from, but this has nothing to do with me. False. The evil in this world has everything to do with you because their ultimate agenda is not money, it's not power, it's your souls. That's the ultimate, because that's the ultimate agenda of the power behind them. So you cannot ignore this. That's not a choice. So before we start talking about the solution here, what can you do about it? Just like as if you're going into battle, before you start talking about victory, you have to understand what the tactics of your enemy are, how
Sure.
the enemy thinks, what their weaknesses are, strengths. And so we're going to go through these enemy tactics that we have laid out. And then once we kind of flesh those out, we will talk about the tactics that we, by the power of God only, can deploy to ultimately seek victory.
Sounds like it's going to be one heck of an episode.
God
I'm
willing.
excited.
Yeah.
So I want to take a big step back at first, though, and just say, Esteban, you're crazy. This is all conspiracy theories. Everything I'm hearing is saying like, oh, it's nonsense, and maybe there's some bad guys. I don't think anybody anymore is like saying no, nothing ever happened with Epstein. But this seems like a big leap. Where are you getting this from? What's your basis? Are you just spending way too much time on, I don't know, sort of deep, dark
Alex Jones.
4chan rabbit holes? What's that?
Alex Jones is
Alex Jones, 100%.
That's right. That's right. So before I tell people to go onto the Justice Department's website to look at the files themselves, I'll just have you look at general history. When have we not had some kind of cruel ruler at the top of things trying to extract power, to use evil to maintain power? When has history not shown that at some degree? So what I want to establish here is that this is nothing new, that this is happening. But where I am getting this from is largely from the Epstein files that were released, about 3 million at this point, by the Justice Department. I myself am not going through them. What I do is I have a few individuals that I trust, and they will go through and cite the files that are released on this website, and then I'll go onto the website and verify it. Yeah, these files do exist, and I read them on the website. And so they go into a variety of different things about how, for example, over 900 times the word pizza was found in these files. And so you have these billionaires talking to each other about, oh, let's go have a pizza party. Let's go have a pizza party. Why are billionaires talking about pizza parties? Well, then you go and you look at Pizzagate. Pizzagate was a scandal where there was a suspected ring of child pedophiles of pedophiles that were involved in higher echelons. And whenever people started to look into pedophile rings online, they saw that pizza was a code word for these children. And so you start seeing, okay, there's a pattern here, because there's no other reason why, they would be talking about 900 pizza parties 900 times. And it goes on, with Anthony Weiner. He had a laptop and it was leaked. And this, again, is in the Justice Department, where there are emails of him talking about flying $60,000 worth of pizza on a private jet to parties with politicians there.
And this is all publicly available right now?
Yes, sir, it is.
So when we say something like the Epstein files, and once again, I'm not a news guy, and I've been doing sort of a fast from most media for the past couple of months now, so I'm sort of out of the loop, right? What are we referring to specifically? These are emails. These are what all are the quote unquote Epstein files? What are they actually?
So the majority of them are emails, along with some photos. A lot of them which have been had faces redacted.
Right.
And so these emails have these conversations in them where Epstein is, for example, coordinating with other people to find children, to bring children to his island. As we know, he was convicted to have brought several underage girls, hundreds and hundreds of underage girls, to his island, which is also visited by some high-profile people. Now, the disgraced Prince Andrew is getting prosecuted by Britain because of what's coming out.
Sure. So who is reporting on this?
So I would say...
Well, I mean, because there's a lot of people talking about it. Who's
Sure.
reporting on it well?
So Ian Carroll, he's reporting really well on it. I would say Tucker Carlson, he scratched the surface. Someone else who has reported on it from a pretty unique angle has been Sean Ryan. He recently had a pretty premier exorcist called Father Chad Ripperger, where Father Chad Ripperger was talking about this problem. And
Father Ripperger's the man.
He is.
Yes.
He is. And he was saying that he's not surprised that this is happening. And I think also a pretty, I would say, nuclear occurrence was someone who was in the ring of these entertainment stars ended up stepping out and saying something. Nicki Minaj.
Sure.
She was, I mean, pretty as high as you can get when it comes to her industry of music. And once Jay-Z and Pusha T, a couple big rappers, were name dropped as handlers in these files, she went on a Twitter rant and said, "Guys, it's true that people in Hollywood, these people are sacrificing children to Satan to maintain power. The jig is up. It's happening."
So that's what I want to get into. I think it sort of blends into a lot of the other stuff you want to talk about too, right? Yeah, I've heard sort of two explanations for the people who are all in and who are saying like, yeah, there's this pedophile ring, all this terrible stuff is happening. The one that I hear a lot more often though is it's a blackmail deal, right? They're bringing these guys in, they're getting them to do all these things, they're filming it, they're taking pictures, and then it's blackmail. But you're saying that this is tied into like actual organized devil worship, like people who are sacrificing children to Moloch or Baal or something like that, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because Jung has this quote that says that branches that reach into heaven have roots that reach into hell. The world that we live in, if you see people trying their hardest to reach the heavens, to bring heaven onto earth, to serve Christ to the fullest, it only makes sense that the opposite is happening, because we have the most ferocious enemy in the game. And so he's going to do everything he can to bring these people to the deepest levels of evil, which and evil has no bottom. Sure. So I think it only makes sense. It's reasonable to assume that, okay, the most egregious things are happening in the world. We just don't know about them until now.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. I actually am a student of history. I'm a teacher of history, and of everything you just said, I think the appeal to history is actually probably one of the most convincing, right? Because you're right. Historically, we see patterns of this that go back before, recorded history, right? Of people who are, we have given different names to them, right? But occultists or witches or whatever. But those aren't fairy tales, right? In history, those are real. And as Catholics, right? I think we've been disenchanted in a big way, and we need some re-enchantment as Catholics to understand, like, no, all of this stuff is, these ideas, the evil, magic, right, is a non-miraculous, right, supernatural things come from the devil, and they're real, and they're a part of the everyday world. So I want to go down through something that you wrote in here, right? What does, like, if we are going to, and I'm not going to say right now, yes, I'm 100% bought in, I believe everything you're saying, but if we do grant it, right, then what does that reveal about sort of the state of our world? And I guess more, the state of our world stuff is interesting, big picture wise, but individually, in regards to spiritual warfare, in regards to the impact on me as a husband, a father, a Catholic, right?
I think about something that Mom has told us before, which is nothing human is alien to you.
Okay.
So I think a good first step is to acknowledge that these people are just as human as us.
Sure.
And that's not so much so that we can humanize them, but more so that we can acknowledge the darkness in our own souls.
Sure. Yeah.
That we turn away from. And that speaks to the importance of getting on this,
right.
Finding a way to solve this. So what does this reveal about the world? What you were saying, which is that evil is real. And these rituals work, and God allows this warfare to happen ultimately for our sanctification. Lorenzo, what do you think?
Kind of like what we were about to say over to the temptations. Like, one of the biggest temptations is, I'm sure listeners now are thinking, the world, right? Like, how can we do to fix the world? It's such a huge start.
Sure.
It's like, that's where that despair comes in, like the analysis paralysis, where you're just like, there's so much to do, like, I can't do anything, right? So I might as well just do nothing. And that's kind of the temptation that we have to avoid. And to do that is the same way you get over sloth. One of S1I's favorite books by, what's the name? San Lorenzo, but what was his full name? Scupoli. Is How to Combat Sloth, which is kind of like the same thing. Sloth is also known as like the despair of good.
Sure.
Like you're so afraid of becoming good that you just like sit there and rot, kind of. And so the way to defeat that it says in the book is to break it down into bite-sized pieces. And so that kind of when it comes to the story of David and Goliath, right? Because that's how we're seeing Epstein and all these elitists as the Goliath, because they're so huge. It seems unimaginable to be able to defeat them.
Sure.
But it took one little stone, right? And so taking that, we have to see that little stone as in every little thing that we do in our lives, right? We have to take the plank out of our own eye before we take the piece of wood out of somebody else's. So the way we do that is like, how do we stop this world? It's like it starts from like the tiniest little pebble, which is like what we're gonna go over is like getting away from the hedonistic temptations that you are putting yourself through every single day, which one of the most biggest ones that attacks men every single day is pornography.
100%.
I still have a recovering porn addict.
Sure.
Sure. Unfortunately, the reality is most of my spiritual brothers are as well.
I think most of this generation is. Most of my generation is, for sure.
Yeah. And, I think one of the biggest things to avoid a trap is knowing where it is, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things that we can take a step forward in order to avoid that paralysis analysis.
Okay, but how? Like, help me draw this, because I don't disagree at all. This is actually where I land on a lot of political stuff. Like I was saying, I've been taking this pretty serious media fast for a while. I just found out all the Iran stuff not too long ago. I mean, it's wild, right? But I've been pretty removed from it. And I've been pretty removed from it because I feel like, laws of subsidiarity. I am responsible for my soul, my wife's soul, my children's soul. This right here are my primary and secondary vocations all wrapped up in front of me. And so I'm hyper focusing on that. And I see when you say something here like the temptation, you talk about the temptation to despair. These people are too rich and powerful to defeat. Why even bother? No, for me, it's more like this thing might be happening and it's a long way away. And sure, it affects me. But you know what I affect most directly? These people right in front of me. I'm desperately trying to make sure I'm staying in a state of grace, and I'm trying to be the husband and father that I'm called to be. Right. How do I connect my day-to-day with this? And maybe I'm getting ahead of where you guys are trying to go, but I don't know. That's a question that keeps coming back to me.
And that's a great point. And I actually think that you're pointing at the slippery slope here, the risk of even engaging with this, which is looking too far into the abyss.
Sure.
And getting obsessed with it. And I've had guys talk to me in front of our priest and be like, I'm bringing this home. I'm freaking out about this. I'm like, what are we going to do? What's going on? So I hear what you're saying.
Sure.
And I think at the end of the day, what we need to take away from this is a reminder of the reality. And the reminder of the reality that there is an evil that's after you, and it's very organized.
Yes.
It's very organized. It's very intent. And it manifests in the home through food, through screens, through news, through attitudes and ideologies. All these things, a lot of these things at least, originate from high levels that design and these agendas that say, okay, we're going to execute this strategy so that we can establish more control. And so we'll kind of go down to the enemy tactics, I think is what you're getting. Is like, how are these people actually affecting me in my daily life and my family? Yeah. So I have these three that we laid out that I think is, and again, I don't want us to lose sight of the force behind the force, which is the enemy himself. And so what is the fulfillment of that diabolical agenda? Well, I think we can look at it through three lenses. One is sexualization. So it's kind of the ultimate inversion of the gift of our bodies is perversion, right? It's this perverted sexualization. So what they're trying to do that we see every day and hear every day is normalize sexual deviancy to us and our children. I don't even have to explain how that's happening.
Right.
Go look up a Disney movie these days. Go look up the music that these kids are listening to. It's awful. And so the sexualization is blatant. After that, there's sedation. They want us sedated. The enemy wants us sedated through whatever sin we choose. And I listed a whole set of sins here. One of them that you're actively resisting, which is distracting news.
Right.
And that goes back to acedia. Part of the nature of acedia is distracting yourself so you don't have to recognize your spiritual responsibilities. And then lastly, it's lukewarm spirituality, right? And this comes in many forms. This comes in kind of like I'm the center of the universe, I will manifest my will. And the other one is kind of this spiritual complacency of good enough spirituality. And so I think those are ways that that these agents of the enemy, put them that way, are trying to infiltrate us.
So you just made a point, and I'm curious about your thoughts on it, Lorenzo. He just said that the agents of the enemy. So I think we can all agree as Catholics, right, that the enemy, that the devil is out there, right, and that he's coming for us, and he's coming for us individually in different ways. I mean, talking about Chad Rippinger once again, everybody should listen to everything that Father Rippinger ever says, but we talk about how, we sort of have guardian angels, but we also have like our own little demons holding on to us all the time, following us around, trying to beat us down. That makes sense to me. I understand that. But it sounds like what you're saying is that when you're saying agents, you're talking about these people who are doing this thing, right, who are doing whatever evil it is, the rituals and sacrifices and all of these things, that they have sort of this collective agenda to work hand in glove with the evil one. Is that what we're saying? Is that what you're saying?
Say that last part again.
And that when we talk about the agents, we're talking about the people, right? I guess in this instance, we're talking about elite cabals of people who are performing evil rituals and devil worshippers, right? If we're being frank, right? That they are purposefully working. They're purposely trying to perpetuate sort of the enemy's designs and plans in this world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Easily. Because most people are tempted by what Jesus was tempted in the desert, which is like power and some kind of hunger, some kind of vulgar hunger, all those kinds of things. They want to be at the top of the world, but the god of the world is Satan. That's what he's controlling. So if you want to be the top of the world, you have to be on Satan's good side. And so it's only natural that that's just kind of an outward expression of people who are at the top of the world. My biggest thing is that it's to remind ourselves, to avoid this analysis paralysis, is to make sure that we aren't putting too much attention in necessarily our fear of the conspiracy theories, or maybe not conspiracy theories, but what's happening out there. One of my favorite verses that I was bringing up here on Isaiah, it's in Isaiah chapter 8, verse 12. It says, "Do not call conspiracy all that this people calls conspiracy, and do not fear what it fears, or be in dread. But the Lord of hosts, him you shall regard as holy. Let him be your fear, and let him be your dread." And the reason why I think that's so important is because, if there's I got to do something. It's like you keep on saying, I have to do something, right? When it's really important you have to put this in God's hand. It's easy to forget that we are a body of Christ. We are all connected in some way. And that comes it's like our little tiny actions that we're doing every day, just like in David and Goliath, the little pebbles that we're throwing. One of my favorite things is that, like you were saying, like your most direct impact is on your family, right?
Sure.
And your family's most direct impact is on the community. And kind of like, I think it's Thomas Aquinas, it's some kind of order of like influence or something on the world.
Love, I think, is you're supposed to love your family.
Yeah, you love or understand yourself so that you can spread that to a wife, and then have a family, and then a community, and then all the way up into spreading into the world.
Sure.
And so I think it's so important to be able to, see this and I guess just in a way just be able to simplify it a little bit. Because one of the biggest things that, like I said, that analysis paralysis is so dangerous.
Well, and frankly, that's what I always come away, or that's what I oftentimes come away with. We're talking about conspiracy theories and things like that, right? Of this, you see these people and they're really upset about this thing, and you haven't heard a lot about this thing, and it might be intriguing or whatever. But I'm thinking, all right, what's the, maybe there's lizard people that control the world.
Probably.
Okay, maybe. Anyway, I still got to be at work at 6:30 tomorrow morning, and I still got to do this so I can take care of my family. Let me just move past that, right? But the insidiousness of it, and once again, going back to sort of the historical examples that we have, just going back, through the Freemasons, through everything, right? The component of there's something evil here. There's not just something strange about this. Does that make sense? Faking the moon landing, that's kind of a kooky conspiracy there. Okay, maybe, right? That doesn't impact me. But this seems to impact me directly. And I want to talk about why it impacts me. I feel like we alluded to that at the beginning. I understand why it impacts society. Why does it impact me as a Catholic, as a man, as a husband, as a father?
How or why?
Why? I like why.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, going back to it is, what's the force behind all of this? And what is it that he wants the most? When I was listening to one of the Saint Teresa's, the one that traveled down to hell a few times with Christ, Lisieux? How do I do it?
Lisieux?
Lisieux.
Lisieux?
She said that one of the most chilling things she wrote, that one of the most chilling things that she saw when she was in hell was a place that was already prepared for her. And I mean, if there's a place prepared for a holy saint, just imagine how cushy
what I
ours is.
deserve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we don't have to speculate, is this individual human at the top, this one billionaire that might be worshiping the devil, is he actually planning on getting my soul? And does he have kind of the intelligence to be able to create this whole strategy? No. It doesn't matter if he has the intelligence, because we know that
who's backing him does.
Who's backing him does,
right.
Exactly. And so it's through them that he's working. And that's the thing, too. It doesn't have to be thousands and thousands of people that are at this dark altar. It can just be a select few that have the influence that they need. Go ahead.
Well, no, but I'm because I know I just keep sort of clarifying. I'm just trying to drill down and drill down. We're talking about the influence. We're talking about the ability to influence society, moral norms, the ability to execute all these enemy tactics that you mentioned earlier, right? That's what we're talking about, like the sexualization, the sedation, and then our spirituality falling apart, right? So we're going to have to take a break here in a second, but when we come back, can we sort of go through directly these points and his tactics, him being the enemy, and our tactics and how we combat that? Because I really want to get to the meat of day-to-day life. What do I do? What do I do? I know we keep talking about pebbles and Goliath, and I agree.
Yeah,
and, praise be to God. Jesus has already won, right? Death has been defeated. The enemy has been defeated. But I like talking about brass tacks. I want to drill down on that when we get back. Is that okay?
Yeah,
that sounds great.
All right, guys. I'm really enjoying this. Thank you all so much for being here. This is a lot of fun. This is a spicy one, guys. I'm really enjoying it. Ladies and gentlemen at home, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is Honest to God, a production of the Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. We'll be right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is Honest to God, a production of the Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. We're going to jump right back in on our second segment of Knights of the Round Table, the Epstein Files defeating Goliath. We're still here with Lorenzo and Esteban, and This is a lot. This is a big episode.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of fun, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun in a really horrific kind of, repercussions for all humanity kind of way. But as fun as we can make that.
It is.
So it's good. I appreciate you guys being here today. And I want to open up before we really dive into our second segment. Esteban, you had said that you wanted to clarify right after we got off, right after we took the break. You said, "Ooh, what I opened with, I want to tweak that a little bit." So
that's right.
You want to clarify?
Because you had asked, where's the basis? How do we know or even suspect that this is going on? Firstly, if someone can achieve power through this, why wouldn't they?
And tell us what this is again, in case somebody's just tuning in.
Through this, these satanic powers, essentially. We know that there are people that are depraved enough to do anything that they can to get to the highest levels.
Right.
And if we as Catholics acknowledge that these forces do work, this dark magic does work, that's why we are instructed to stay away from it. Why wouldn't these people that would do anything to achieve it not participate
100%
in this weaponry that they have access to? So there's that kind of hopefully somewhat logical train that you can look at. And then we can look at some relatively recent events that have happened that I was trying to clarify. I was all over the place. Speaking about pizza. What does pizza have anything to do with this? Good question. 2015 Pizzagate. Did you ever hear about Pizzagate?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Pizzagate was this debacle that was sparked when Anthony Weiner, the chief of staff of the Clintons, his laptop, this is all confirmed, public record, his laptop was released. His laptop was seized by NYPD. The emails were leaked, thousands of them. All these emails are documented on these court cases. In those emails, there were some that were discussing a pizza party where $60,000, quote, worth of pizza and hot dogs were being flown to a party with household political names at that party. Who is buying $60,000 worth of pizza and hot dogs
And putting it on an airplane.
putting it on a private jet
right.
and sending it to a political elite party?
Right.
Okay. And at this point, this Pizzagate thing starts popping up, and immediately mass news starts attacking it. That's tinfoil conspiracy, and they start trying to affiliate it with kind of these crazy conspiracies. And one of the leading reporters that was debunking Pizzagate was James Gordon,
Okay.
ABC News. A few years later, not so long ago, a few years back, James Gordon has been arrested and is today in prison for the possession of CSAM, child sex abuse material.
Is that true?
That's true. The ABC
Wow.
reporter that had claimed that he debunked the pizza conspiracy was arrested for having that content.
Oh my goodness.
And part of the quote unquote conspiracy was that a lot of this ritual was happening at this Washington pizza parlor called Comet Ping Pong. The owner of which is the boyfriend of David Brock, owner of Media Matters, one of the most important media establishments for the Democratic Party.
Right.
And as all of this attention, mind you, just go look at the social media post of this pizza place. Creepy. As this attention starts hitting this pizza parlor that was widely visited, it was kind of this weird cultural icon. A shooting happens. Some kid with an AR goes in there while people are in there, just starts shooting the place up. No one dies, but one thing gets destroyed. Hard drive. Camera hard drive gets destroyed. AR bullet goes straight through it. Again, fact, police reports. And he gets pulled out, and there's this kind of scripted perp walk, it looks like, where he's just mumbling saying, I thought Hillary Clinton was involved in this. I guess not. No one died. The only thing that died was the video camera hard drive.
Stop.
Okay?
Is that true?
That's true.
I remember the Pizzagate thing. I remember there was a shooting, pizza parlor. Yeah.
No deaths. The only thing that happened was that hard drive was destroyed. And now we look at the Epstein files, where billionaires are talking about how much they are looking forward to pizza parties.
Right.
What adult,
Sure.
nonetheless a billionaire adult, is talking about pizza parties? And now it's confirmed, the FBI has confirmed that in all of these online forums, with these pedophile online forums, the code word is pizza. It's pizza and hot dogs and grape soda. These are confirmed code names that the FBI has taken note of, that they have found across several cases where all this stuff is happening.
Why are we just hearing about all this now?
Well, they don't want us to ever hear about it.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense, right? If we're saying there's some
But why now?
top-down conspiracy, but right, why now? Why is this the floodgates starting to break open now?
The way Father Ripperger put it is that God will only tolerate so much. He will only tolerate so much.
So going back to where we sort of ended the last segment, right? We talked in particular about the tactics of the enemy, and I 100%, on board. I think our listeners would be really hard-pressed to disagree when we're talking about the devil, right? There might be some disagreement about whether or not these people are direct agents of the devil from some of our listeners, right? But that the main tactics that we see, you can listen to a lot of exorcists talking about this, right? Sexualization, sedation, and lukewarm spirituality, right? I want to ask you guys to clarify again what you mean by lukewarm spirituality, because I noticed that you didn't say atheism, you didn't say cold spirituality, you said lukewarm spirituality, which really, makes me think of that guy Jesus Christ who said, "Be hot or cold for the lukewarm, and I will spew from my mouth." And I just want to try. What does that mean before we get into that tactic a little more and talk about how we can combat it?
It kind of brings me back to one of your more popular clips when you were saying like, or you can, I'll probably not do well with the quote you had, but it was like, I'd rather have my kid like be super passionate and also an ISIS or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Than be just like a super apathetic Christian or something like that, because he has something to like set his sails, like he has wind to set his sails, right? So because when it comes to, for example, like getting somebody closer to Christ, the hardest people aren't the ones that like are atheists and still looking for the truth, right? The people that are hardest to convince are people like, why do I even care?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care for the truth. And so when you say something about like there's people who are like, depending on who you vote for, like will enable these elitists to be able to like touch children and like eat babies and all these things, and they're like, well, I don't care, like how does this affect me, kind of
Right.
thing.
No, I think apathy is more dangerous.
Yeah.
Oftentimes than
Exactly.
even misdirected passion. Yeah, I think that a lot of times that if you gave me the option, I would say no. That fire, even burning in the wrong direction, is going to be better than not having a fire there to burn at all.
Yeah. And also another thing, and I won't get too off topic, is that there's quite a temptation to laugh everything off, right? There's kind of an archetype called the evil clown, where they'll take something like as tragic as the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and then they'll make jokes out of it, right? Like the left do that. They do that all the time,
Sure.
right? They use memes and stuff like that to take something that's tragic and make it funny, so it doesn't seem as bad as it really is. So I think that's also like a byproduct of the apathy, because it's just kind of like, who cares kind of thing.
Well, and Lorenzo, while you're at it, you gave a really good analogy for what we meant by sedation too. We talked about those three main enemy tactics that you guys brought up. Sexualization, once again, I don't think that needs much of an introduction. Living in the pornified world that we live in, living in the world where all of us are objectified constantly, right? But and you talked a little bit about lukewarm spirituality. But you gave that really good analogy. Do you remember on the break about sedation? You're talking about finding North Stars.
Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, well, during the break we were talking about back then. During the the golden age of Catholicism, when saints were coming left and right, it's like, what is the difference between back then and right now? Like, how did we get to this point? And the biggest difference is their focus, their purpose. It was so easy because they had the silence and the calm of mind to be able to understand what God wanted to them, because they were pure in heart, and those who are pure in heart will see God. And so that also is why getting rid of sexualization is so important, but we'll get to that later. But one of the biggest things to be able to glorify God and be able to stop this kind of things is to understand your North Star, right? Because it's well known that the man who doesn't have his purpose will distract himself through pleasure, right? And pleasure is the biggest like fishing hook for all these elitists, right? That's it's kind of like that's what got them there. So just kind of like to just join us.
Sure.
And so one of the biggest things that we need to focus on is focus, right? And so one of the biggest brass tactics that we were talking about getting there is being ruthless with your environment, and that starts with the most distracting thing you have in your right hand, and that is your phone, right? And so we were talking about ways to block that phone. And so already here, it's already kind of Apple throws us a bone. It's like the screen phone time in the settings is one of the biggest like tools to help you with your screen time. Like find a loved one, parent, a good friend who really loves you, wants the best for you, or your priest as well.
Yes.
Use the people in the church as well. That's what they're there for. And set that code, and instantly like you will see the difference, because we were talking that of course, if you have a supercomputer in your hand that like gives you every single amazing visual pleasure and audio pleasure you could ever have, of course you're going to choose that.
Right.
Like you don't have to rely on pure willpower to try and improve your focus. Get rid of it, like I did not one time, I still do it. And I'm like, well, I have nothing else to do, so I guess I'll just take a walk.
Right.
Or read a book or something.
Go to something that's actually
I'm so bored,
enjoyable. Yeah.
I'm so bored out of my mind.
Well, that dopamine withdrawal is really good for us sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad that you're talking about this, right? We're talking about sedation in particular, and you didn't. The analogy I wanted you to use was the Matrix analogy. We need to follow our North Star, right? That's Christ.
Right.
That's what we're longing towards. That's what our hearts are actually drawn towards. But like in the real world, quote unquote, in the Matrix, the sky is constantly cloudy now because there's so much stuff, right? Be it visual distractions, be it the food we eat, be it the drugs or alcohol, or just all of our base habits. And a question we were wrestling with over the break a little bit was the why now, and that's what we came to, right? Because and I don't think anybody would disagree with this. There have always been evil forces at play, always, right? Always. But if we go back 1,000 years ago, those evil forces are going to have a lot harder time distracting us. I'm not saying they didn't, but I'm saying they're going to have a harder time distracting us in a sort of organized, unified, society-wide manner when when we're more in touch with who we are and live a more real existence, right? When we're not we don't have the options to have ourselves distracted and our attention's robbed.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, proximity, I think, is what you're
Yep.
talking about too. Because back then, the most proximal thing within the church was more proximal than distractions.
Yes.
Back then, before this hyper technology, right? It was right down the street. While the closest thing to entertainment you had was either books or newspaper at best. But now the most proximal thing is in our earbud, in our hand, in our pocket.
Constantly.
Constant. And that is a complete vessel for the enemy.
Right.
For the enemy, for distraction. So I think but it's kind of backfired on them because, and that's a point that I wanted to drive in this whole thing, is that this is all backfired on the enemy because this despair that he's been trying to drive, especially young men into, we are sick of it. And now you see these men just in droves going back to the antithesis of all this emptiness and despair.
Praise
which
be to
is
God,
a
man.
good traditional Catholic
Yes.
faith. And that's what the whole battle is. And that's the most rebellious thing. We're just kind of laughing about how the most rebellious thing you can do is be a devout Catholic and have babies.
Well, so first of all, I totally agree. I was mentioning during the break how there's a great book written by the great nephew of Blessed Karl von Habsburg. It's called The Habsburg Way, and he goes through like the keys to success that the Habsburgs, right, who used to control something like a third of planet Earth, right, great Catholic dynasty, right, of the Middle Ages up until, I mean, kind of World War I, right? But and he says, number one, it gives you, I think, 7 rules. Number 1, be Catholic. Number 2, seriously, be Catholic. Number 3, get married. Number 4, have lots of children, raise them Catholic. He goes through all of these things, which I think was really, really obvious to our, to us back then. But what you said about rebellion is so true. And if anybody out there doesn't know this, I really do want you to take heart at the fact that the church, first of all, Christ wins. Christ has already won, right? The devil's fighting over our souls. He's not fighting over humanity anymore. He's fighting over individuals, right, to drag us to hell. So you're not trying to minimize at all. But Christ has already won. But like you said, the tide is turning. And I want to talk about why I think that is, and then I want to hear your thoughts in light of all of this. It seems to me that by the 60s, 70s, 80s even, right, the pendulum had swung so far in the direction of the enemy, right? The countercultural revolution, the sexual revolution, what have you, of the 60s and 70s, won the culture war. They won. They destroyed the culture, right? They did. They ruined it. It was terrible, right? Hedonism and selfishness and relativism and all that, modernism had won. And it seems like all this, and that's why I think men are doing it first, at least more predominantly, right? Men are looking around and saying, I have this natural desire. I want to struggle. I don't want to be complacent with this. And it used to be, it was easier for the devil to orient us away from what was true, good, and beautiful, because there was a lot more of what was true, good, and beautiful. And now we're in this empty, nothing modernist world and saying, I'm looking at this and I kind of have this natural desire to rebel anyway, but all of a sudden I'm looking at everything around me is evil and broken and infiltrated by the enemy. Maybe I should go look at the stuff that everyone's telling me not to, which for the first time in history seems to be, or it's the first time in modern Western history, the Roman Catholic Church. It's Jesus Christ. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts?
I agree. And we can't defy our nature, ultimately. And our nature is, like you were saying, to struggle, to suffer, to be on a cross, because Christ's kind of fulfillment of humanity was him hanging on the cross.
Right.
And so that's what the deepest part of our being is kind of leaning towards, whether we like it or not. And the emptiness gets cold and uncomfortable, and any guy, especially at the top, there's this big one, Dan Bilzerian. You ever heard of him? He's kind of the epitome of the jock, the dream, the jock's dream. He's this guy that made millions in gambling and arms trading, and he's known for just having droves of models just following him in whatever private jet he gets on. And it's really remarkable to watch him look in the camera and say how miserable he is.
Right.
So that reality is blatant. It's just whether you want to pay attention to it or not.
Right.
So we have a yearning for something deep, and there's nothing deeper than what the church offers us.
So let's get into that practically. You had talked about brass tacks a minute ago, Lorenzo, and we talked about that regard in regards to sort of sedation, combating that. What are some other things that we can do in our daily life, right? If the ultimate act of rebellion is, and I agree it is, being faithful to the Catholic Church, right? Being a man of virtue, struggling towards salvation, right? Getting married, being a husband, being a father, being a priest, right? Being the person that we're called to be. And I would argue deep down, despite our concupiscence, the person that we really do want to be if we're honest with ourselves. Anybody, even the people that you're saying might be involved in the most heinous things we can possibly think of, right? That is written on our hearts because natural law is written on our hearts. What can we do practically in our day-to-day?
I would say learn how to be in silence, because it's only in silence that you're going to be able to, get rid of the clouds from the matrix and be able to see that North Star. And the coolest thing about God, God is just so cool, right? Like, cool. Not only is he just like beautiful, but he's just like so like cool and awesome and just like, kind of like that man that it's just so cool. I could just say cool 10 billion times and it wouldn't be enough. But when it comes to your silence and then understanding your purpose through that, obviously through prayer, right? Obviously, this goes back to why we started this is like with the Epstein files, with the elitists. Like, how does us being in, like, finding our North Star have to do with, getting rid of the elitist, right? Mm-hmm. It's because whatever fulfills us is related to God.
Yes.
The things that we find that has to be our purpose and it's like it drives us, that's also God's purpose for us as well. Mm-hmm. And so if we ask God to give us direction or we're looking for a purpose and we find that true purpose, it's naturally going to lead us closer to God. And God is naturally going to lead us to do small things that lead us to our purpose when it goes kind of like going back to like, starting with the small pebbles and things like that. And, together we can take down a Goliath. It's like finding that purpose is God guiding you. And through that, like together as the body of Christ, that's kind of how we slowly take over. And I think it's like, why is it that we're being attacked like this? Mm-hmm. Because God has permissive will, right? He allows these things to happen. Not obviously because he's a bad God, right. But, he allows spiritual combat to happen for us to grow in virtue. Yes. Right. So he's telling us something like he's asking us to, it's reminding ourselves that like who we are and like how we function again as the body of Christ. And that is through that focus. That is through in silence. So I'm going to go back to the silence before I get super far. It's like in the mornings, one of the best things, if I'm not doing it, then I start going crazy, as my parents, as my friends, is that my best moments, I wake up at 5:30 and I have 6:45 mass at St. Catherine's.
It's beautiful.
And so at 5:30, I get there around 6 and I'm in adoration for like 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that just sets the whole day for me because it gives me that focus. It gets rid of the clouds. I see the North Star. I'm like, okay, this is what I can do for today. And if I do this for a week, I can do this for a month and then all the way up to a year to the point where I'm able to help people by making that family. Kind of like what we're saying right here, like doing the most effective socio-political move, which is to be devout Catholic. Yes. And have babies. And that all starts with your silence and your prayer in the morning.
Well, I think it's those little things. I think we put too much pressure on ourselves a lot. I know a lot of guys right now who are doing like Exodus 90, and that's great. Good. Do Exodus 90, man. Heck yeah, right? And a lot of guys are kind of overwhelmed by that. But just if you can't do that, if you can't do some major mortification, if you can't do something a little, just do a little bit better.
Exactly.
Every day, just a tiny bit better, right? And yeah, you're going to take 5 steps forward and then 4 steps back, but that's okay, right? We're slowly making progress. And I think that we have to understand that, especially as men. Like, I'm that guy. I'm always like, I want to jump in. I'm going to do this thing that's super hard. And then I get lazy and I get complacent and I fall apart. And then I beat myself up and then I'm like, well, I might as well not do anything. I'm just going to be miserable. But it's those little things that we can do. And it's like, I like how we come back to the small stone analogy, right? Because those little stones, I guess this is different than the Goliath analogy, right? But over time, right, those add up. And if
Right.
I think all the time about, there's so many guys I look up to from a spiritual maturity standpoint. So many guys I want to be like. I got a great spiritual director. I'm talking to him all the time. I'm trying to get here. I'm trying to do this or whatever. But then I look and I feel like I've just been spinning my wheels forever. But then I look at myself 10 years ago. Or I look at myself 20 years ago, and I'm like, oh my goodness, dude, how far have you come? Praise be to God on these just constant incremental fighting day in and day out, and failing as often, almost as often as I'm winning.
Right. Yeah.
Man, and it's humiliating, man. Whenever you set yourself on a goal, I'm gonna work out at 4:30. I'm David Goggins. I'm gonna fast and rosary and work out and this and that, and I'm gonna be a millionaire, right? And then you see your first bag of chips,
Right.
and that's it. And it's so, that's something that I've thank God so much for, is humiliation, man, because I need it.
Yeah, dude.
I need it. But going back to your point, kind of an actionable that you can deploy to fight these things that are being thrown at us, is seeking out a little holy pain, a little bit of pain, to make it a little harder. And then, but that's half the thing. The second half is giving it to God.
Yes.
You actually have to consciously give it to God, because you can go on a run for vanity,
Right.
or you can go on a run because you hate it, but you love God, and you appreciate that He gave you this gift of this body that can go on a run,
Right.
and you pray a rosary on the run, or you're in silence on the run, or so you find little opportunities to deprive yourself, to deprive your flesh, and you turn it to God, and He's going to see that, and He's going to be able to turn that little pebble into part of the foundation of a beautiful spiritual life.
Right.
And one thing I wanted to go on a little bit more with what you're saying is, like, giving it up to God. What does that practically look like? Because I remember when I first started my faith, and I'm like confession with a priest, and he's just like, give it up to God, and I get so frustrated at that, because I'm like, what does that mean? I can't physically just hand the sky whatever I got, and He's just gonna pick it up. But God has more than one name. He's also called truth, right? And so practically, it can be say the truth, really say the truth. Kind of like what he was saying. It's like, I'm gonna wake up at 4:30 and pray the rosary and learn how to do backflip in 2 minutes. And if you really speak the truth, you're like, am I really doing this for the best in me, or am I working off of my pride,
Right.
as a Christian? Because the devil will use that against you. Because like, try and be a better Christian than everybody else by doing all this like super like awesome manly stuff,
Right.
and then you burn yourself out. It's kind of like you're only able to push like 95 pounds at a bench, and then you're like, okay, now I'm gonna go for 225.
Yeah.
That's kind of, my friends and I talk about that, going through Exodus 90. I started with all that. I'm just like, you get so in despair. You're like, oh, I can't do this, right? Because it's like, well, yeah, because you were doing 95 pounds, and now you're doing 225 pounds. Obviously, you're not gonna do that,
Right.
and so you're just like, oh, I'm so weak, I'm never gonna do this. It's all about those little steps. And so, almost lost my train of thought. What was I saying last part?
Just the little steps of
No, it was
giving
the
something
beginning
to
part.
God.
Yes, giving them to God, which is saying those little truths, right? Which is the same thing with the little stones. So it's like, when you say give it up to God, it's like you say the truths, like, what is the best system for me? What is truly the best system for me when it comes to running, when it comes to being a better Christian and things like that.
Well, a lot of that I think too is if you fail too, that's okay. You can fail 10,000 times.
Exactly.
It's okay. And also for people who are like me, right? I would argue intellectually assenting to I'm giving this up to God is an okay first step.
Yeah, that's what I do.
If the whole moment, if the whole run, the whole whatever you're doing, you don't just feel, you're not just hearing gospel hymns in your head and think, this is for you, God, right? Yeah. But it's just like, no, this is for God.
For sure.
And you can just say that. No, that's for God. I'm doing this. I'm
Right,
doing this for
right.
God.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And if us saying that and like focusing, I recommend to a lot of guys sometimes, fake it till you make it, man. Try to do the things that you feel like a virtuous, good man would do, even if you're not getting it, even if you're not feeling it. It's not a big heart thing. It's not a big emotional one.
Right.
That's great. That's okay. you're going to get there as long as like your actual desire, not in the moment, not in the way you feel all the time, but your actual desire is to grow closer to God through this, through whatever this is. All right, guys. Well, we're almost done. We're just about out of time. I do want to thank you guys for coming on and talking about some pretty serious stuff. And I want to end with, and let you guys riff on it a little bit more if you want to, but I feel like it sums it up pretty well. The most effective socio-political move is to be a devout Catholic, get married, and have babies. That is how we change the world, y'all. It really is. I teach church history. I've taught it for a long time, and 99.9% of church history are people that they didn't write about. They were people who were praying their rosaries and raising their babies and catechizing them and just trying to be virtuous. And that's why the church is. That's why we are who we are. Right? Praise be to God.
Amen.
That's the war. That's the war. And the way that you start on that little tactic right there that you just said is by asking the girl out.
There you go. I like that.
That's it.
There we go.
All right. Well, guys, we're gonna have to have you guys back on again. We're gonna have to do this, do more of this in the future. Y'all are always fun to have on, guys. Thanks so much for being here,
Thanks,
for
John
having
Henry.
us.
Thank you, Madeline.
ladies and gentlemen at home. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is Honest to God. This is Honest to God, a production of AM 1160 The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. Producer Madeline. This is where you say signing off.
Signing off.
Over and out.